I've tried to record this video like 4 times already, man. It doesn't come out good this time, bro. I don't even know. Have you ever looked at Griffith and wondered to yourself, I like this character, but I also hate the things that he did. How come I can sort of forgive the character for the things that he has done because of how his character is shaped, when in reality you can't really forgive the things he's done? Can doing more good than evil truly overcome the evil that you have done? Griffith is easily one of the most intricate and complicated characters in all of the manga medium. I'm pretty sure that's quite well established, and while he is one of the most hated antagonists as well, the same people that hate him also recognize how incredible his character really is, except for some people who really cannot forgive what he's done. You might fall under two extremely narrow-minded categories that I just randomly came up with. You may respect the fact that Griffith will do anything to achieve his dreams, and because of this you sort of forgive the things that he has done, or you just simply cannot forgive the things that he has done because, to be fair, they are pretty hard to forgive. It's very difficult to pinpoint why Griffith does the things that he does throughout the story of Berserk, and that goes for things that come before and after the eclipse, not just what he does in the eclipse. Because when you think of Griffith and why you really hate the character, the thing that comes most commonly into your mind is probably what happened in the eclipse, and rightfully so. That is one of the most despicable things that Griffith has done in his whole character, but there is more, and there are many other things that make Griffith who he is, and there are many different actions that he has committed, both good and evil, that have led to the character he is now, and that make up Griffith. Good and evil is a very difficult argument because you can't really describe something as good or evil without really taking sides. Like, again, if you take the side of Guts and you look at Griffith, it's kind of clear to see that what he does, almost everything he does, could be considered evil. But if you take the stance of someone in Griffith's kingdom, Falconia, it's kind of obvious to see that most of the things that he does could be considered good. Even if you consider the things he has done to get here, I'm pretty sure most people would still say the good that he has done for the world outweighs the evil that he has done to the Band of the Hawk, to Casca, and to Guts. I think it's important to understand why Griffith has done these evil things if we're really trying to understand his character, and this goes extremely deep into Griffith's mind, hence the title of the video, Inside Griffith's Mind. Again, talking about evil, I think it's extremely difficult to call something inherently evil because all humans possess the ability to do evil things. And again, the whole thing I just explained with perspective plays a huge role in understanding which of the things Griffith has done were good and which of the things were evil. It is very difficult to pinpoint which is which is why I'm not really going to do it in this video. So what compels Griffith to do most of his evil actions? The most obvious and well-established reason is, of course, for his dream, because his dream for the entirety of the Golden Age arc was to get his own kingdom. And when he is granted the wings to fly up to the kingdom, he can pretty much achieve it whenever he wants, and he ends up doing that when the Millennium Falcon arc ends, as he brings down the Kushan Empire and establishes Falconia. Obviously, we can't dismiss the kingdom and the importance of the kingdom towards Griffith's character and why he does the things that he does, both good and evil, because it's mentioned throughout the entire story, and like that's really just what makes up Griffith, right? Let's be honest. But what goes even deeper into Griffith's character, into why he does these things, is because of his upbringing and because of his nature in general. It's the topic of nature and nurture, the big topic in science that many scientists have not really come to a conclusion with. Think of it this way: if you were to put someone else in Griffith's situation during the eclipse, do you think they would have done the same thing as Griffith? Put them in the same situation as Griffith when Guts was about to leave the Band of the Hawk. Obviously, their decisions would have been drastically different. Even if they had the exact same goal as Griffith, their actions would have been different. But the thing about Griffith is that he commits extremely odd actions in certain circumstances, and that is due to his upbringing, and again, due to just how he is as a person. Destiny also has a huge role to play in this entire situation, because Griffith was destined by the idea of evil to become something great, to become something greater than all the people around him, and he does end up doing that. His character was shapen from birth to be this way so that he could achieve what he was destined to achieve, and this is something that Berserk just again implements into its story: destiny, fate, causality. Guts was destined to struggle. Griffith was destined to succeed despite not doing nearly the number of difficult things that Guts has. It's just the way it works. Destiny does not favor anyone, it simply picks and chooses at will. And it's ended up picking Griffith, and look where he is now. So again, the reason for Griffith's burning desire for this kingdom isn't entirely of his own will. We know the giant theme in Berserk is that man is not controlled by his own will, and that goes for Griffith as well. Now, the interesting thing about Griffith is that he actually is controlling destiny. His will is destiny. If you haven't seen the God theory video, this is going to be very confusing, but the idea that Griffith is God and that he controls destiny is an extremely important thing that I want to mention in this video, and that I think is extremely important when understanding Griffith's character, because I think what I said in that God theory video, at least in part, to do with Griffith's relationship to destiny and causality in Berserk is in fact true. I mentioned in that story that whatever Griffith desires, he can get. Because the idea of evil is his own heart, whatever his heart wishes will forge destiny in that way. So it's sort of like this looping relationship where the idea of evil created Griffith so that he would end up in this position, and so that he would be the next person to control destiny, so that he would be the great god of Berserk. So yeah, if you're interested in that topic, of course go watch the God Theory video. It's one of my favorite videos on this whole channel. It's one of the hardest videos I've probably made as well. It's a really good video. I think you'll enjoy it. I think Griffith's burning desire to get his kingdom is extremely prominent in the Golden Age arc, but what I think is even bigger than that, especially after he achieves his kingdom, is his want for pretty much everything. This is shown subtly in the Golden Age arc, but it's sort of covered up and overshadowed by his need for the kingdom, and isn't really fleshed out until he actually achieves his kingdom. We know the iconic panel of Guts speaking on Griffith and telling us that he will continue soaring higher and higher, but what is really higher after owning a kingdom, and pretty much the largest kingdom in the entire world? Well, it's pretty much owning everything. If you think of the idea of God, what does God really own? God owns sort of everything. Griffith's heart being the idea of evil means he can have everything he wants so long as he wishes for it, and if he wishes for everything and anything, he can get that as well. The reason I think this is because in the Golden Age arc, Griffith mentions that he wants Guts. He wants the kingdom, as we know, and when Guts leaves the Band of the Hawk, Griffith does not accept this because he cannot accept the idea of someone being above him. This is another thing. Griffith cannot accept the idea of somebody else being on top of him. When he was a child and he would look up to the kingdom, he would hate the idea of having the kingdom looking down upon him, supposedly, because it was something that he knew he could achieve, but that he hadn't yet achieved, and that there were people up there looking down on him, and they were people that were above him in the hierarchy. He wanted to be at the top. As he mentions in the 8th prologue of Berserk, which is pretty much Griffith's introduction as a character, he says that he wants to know his purpose, what he's destined for, and what he's capable of in this world. He mentions that there are men who set this world in motion, and they are the key contributors to this world and to causality. That is foreshadowing because Griffith becomes that later down the line. Based on this introduction, it seems as though Griffith does not like the idea of being controlled by anything, as I mentioned, and that includes destiny. Again, whatever Griffith wishes, he can achieve because the idea of evil forged destiny to be that way. That conflict we see with Griffith in the Golden Age arc, where he sort of debates whether or not he really wants the kingdom, is Griffith wandering off his path because he is in such a low point at his life. He is debating just committing suicide versus getting up again and achieving the goal. Griffith would not have gotten up and achieved the goal had it not been for destiny and fate. Again, the idea of evil created destiny so that Griffith could actually make it there. He would not have made it there if it was not for destiny. Again, he is destined to be here, and that is what pushed him to move forward, whereas destiny never really pushed Guts. Guts pushed himself against destiny. That is a huge parallel that I just picked up on. Griffith's insecurity is another reason why I feel like his want to own everything is so prominent and is so obvious. Now let me explain this because it may sound confusing. In the Jungian analysis video where I talked about Guts and Griffith and their relationship to the persona and the shadow, I mentioned that Griffith was a very insecure character with a very fragile personality, and the way he covered up this personality was by wearing a gigantic persona of being the White Hawk. This is obvious. It doesn't take a genius to see this, and I'm pretty sure you can just tell by reading the first few chapters of Golden Age where Griffith is introduced. This is not who he really is, but this is who he tries to be, and in order to achieve his goal, he needs to be this character, or else he cannot really achieve his goal. If Griffith was this insecure dude who just tried to get the kingdom, do you think he would have gotten the kingdom? Or do you think he would have gotten it if he put on a mask, told a bunch of lies, and climbed his way up the ladder as a seemingly strong man? It's pretty obvious which way makes the most sense. What I would like to call Griffith's shadow based on the Jungian perspective is the personality that sort of eats away at you and constantly highlights the insecurities of yourself in order to bring you down. It's the beast of darkness, but it resides in everyone. Griffith has a beast of darkness of his own, and that is his shadow. But the difference being here is that Griffith covers up that beast of darkness, or what I'm going to call the shadow from now on because I don't want to mix it up with Guts. Griffith covers up his shadow, his massive shadow, by using that massive persona. The two sort of correlate. The reason I think this is because of chapter 17, where Casca goes up to Griffith in the water, and Griffith is extremely resentful about what he did sleeping with the king and begins to sort of scrape his own skin. This is sort of his persona breaking down, and we really get to see Griffith's insecurity about himself and him questioning if his dream is really worth all of this. Another example is when he's on the hill and he sees this young child killed. He wonders if his dream is really worth this child being killed, if his dream is really worth all the corpses being piled upon each other. Again, another example is in the eclipse, when he recognizes that he is piling up all these corpses himself in order to get to the kingdom. He almost strays off the path because his persona breaks to the point where his shadow takes over and he resents all the actions that he did, but the only thing pushing him forward is again destiny and fate, in this situation portrayed as the God Hand. So I'm pretty sure it's extremely difficult to talk about Griffith without talking about Guts, so I'm going to dedicate a hopefully small section on Guts because this video is already getting very long. The idea of a friend. Griffith talked about what he really considered a friend, who he really considered a friend, and Guts at the time did not fit this perspective, but he leaves the Band of the Hawk in parts to become this sort of friend to Griffith, and Griffith obviously takes it completely the wrong way.
I'm going to say the N-word.
It is because of Guts that Griffith ends up sacrificing the Band of the Hawk, as we know he's the one that he sees before he chants the words sacrifice. Everyone that Griffith had met up until now had treated him differently and had treated him like some sort of noble person, whereas Guts was more so like a friend to him and treated him as a friend usually would. Griffith does not like this idea because again he wants to be in control of everyone, and when Guts sort of interacts with him this way, it makes him forget his dream because part of his dream is him being on top of everyone. Interacting with Guts sort of made him forget this dream and sort of made him just interact in a healthy friendship and in a healthy manner this way, which again diverts him off the path towards his dream. Hence, Guts made him forget his dream. Obviously, we know how big of a hit to the ego it was for Griffith when Guts left the Band of the Hawk, because as we see, he ends up sleeping with Charlotte in order to restore the hole in his heart, but that only makes matters worse. It is because Griffith cannot be on top of somebody he thought he was on top of that this entire story is where it currently is. So I'm pretty sure it's safe to assume that Griffith has the desire to be of everyone and to lead at the top, which is the main motivator for him owning his kingdom and becoming God. Again, this motivation may be due to his nurture, the way he was brought up, the way he saw the kingdom as a child, and again, destiny plays a huge role in all of this. And obviously when he raped Casca, the reason for all of that was to show his dominance against Guts. To show that Guts, you cannot touch me. Just in an extremely gruesome and disgusting way. Even though Griffith achieves his goal of getting the kingdom, as we know, he does not settle for the ordinary and he continues soaring higher and higher because he is the Hawk of Light. Now this drive is simply human nature, as I may have discussed in other videos. This drive of becoming better and better is simply the way humans act. If you set a goal for yourself, for example, hit 100,000 subscribers. Once you hit 100,000 subscribers, you're gonna want more. You're not just gonna stop there, and that is human nature. Griffith obviously portrays the human nature incredibly strongly. Now what's interesting is that Griffith is no longer human right now, so this need to go higher and higher is entirely controlled by destiny, and Griffith understands his position in destiny as foreshadowed when he is first introduced, and now continues soaring higher and higher to fulfill the prophecy of becoming the god and leading the world. Now, as we know, Griffith does not feel emotions, and because he does not feel emotions, I think it's a stupid idea to assume that Griffith took Casca away for a second time just to torment Guts. That's probably not the case. That is, in fact, most likely not the case, because Griffith again does not have any emotions, and in my opinion, the reason he took Casca away was because he does not want the Moonlight Child to be vulnerable so that Guts can simply kill him. And again, destiny plays a huge role in all of this. Every berserk theory can just be based off of that sentence. Part of the reason why Griffith is so hated in the berserk community is because of obviously what he's done, but I think the other reason is that he simply gets everything he wants. No matter what happens, anything he wants to happen just happens, and it's not really in anyone else's control. It just seems as though destiny is on his side, because it is. And I think that's another major reason as to why people hate Griffith. Not entirely because of his quote-unquote evil actions, because again, it is very difficult to say evil for some of the things he has done. Obviously, there are some that, it's pretty obvious they're evil, but I've already touched on that. Let's move on. Based on everything I've gathered in this video, I want to come to sort of a mini conclusion as to how Griffith's character is going to end, because after all, we've just spent like over 20 minutes inside of his mind. I think there's a reason for that. I'm gonna try and come up with a decent ending. We know the Moonlight Child plays a crucial role in Griffith's emotions, and it's the main reason for Griffith stealing Casca away again. As I mentioned, that is obviously just what I think entirely. It could be wrong. But to me, it seems like if Griffith's downfall was to really come, which I truly do believe it will come, it will be because of his emotions and his emotional desire as the Moonlight Child to become human again. Again, it's that vague sense of longing that he feels that he does not really understand what it is that will be his downfall. The God Hand at once called him the King of Longing, and I feel like this is a foreshadowing, because if he is the King of Longing, he may long to become human again, and this will be how he dies. I don't know how he will become human again. I don't know how this entire story is going to come to a conclusion. I just feel like that is going to be the reason why Griffith is going to fall, because Griffith can't really die unless he makes himself die, because he's in control of destiny. So if he wishes to become a human because of the emotional connection he has and that sense of longing, then that seems like the only realistic possibility at this moment for Griffith being defeated at the end of Berserk. I don't think it's anything crazy to say that Griffith's character is unbelievably intricate, and I feel like the best evidence for that fact is that I've spent like almost 30 minutes recording this video and I still haven't covered like a quarter of his character. That is absolutely wild. I do hope you enjoyed being inside of the mind of Griffith. I think it was a pretty fun video to make. I feel like I'm gonna make another video like this on Guts. So if you want to see that, you already know what to do. I'm not even gonna say it. Hope you enjoyed the video. That's it for me. See you later.